Immigration had been started in the 1990s when people from other countries wanted freedom or other things. Immigration had started to become a problem in the United States. On February 4, 1917, the United States Congress passed the Immigration Act of 1917, also known as the Asiatic Barred Zone Act, with an overwhelming majority overriding President Woodrow Wilson's December 14, 1916 veto. It barred all immigrants over the age of 16 who were illiterate. The most controversial part of the law was the section that designated an Asiatic Barred Zone, a region that included much of Eastern Asia and the Pacific Islands from which people could not immigrate. During the Harding administration, a stopgap immigration measure was passed by Congress in 1921 for the purpose of slowing the flood of immigrants entering the United States. A more thorough law was signed by President Coolidge in May 1924. The law was called the Immigration Act of 1924, or Johnson-Reed Act, including the National Origins Act. This was a United States federal law that limited the number of immigrants who could be admitted from any country to 2% of the number of people from that country who were already living in the United States in 1890, down from the 3% cap set by the Immigration Restriction Act of 1921, according to the census of 1890. The law was aimed at further restricting the Southern and Eastern Europeans who were immigrating in large numbers starting in the 1990s, as well as prohibiting the immigration of East Asians and Asian Indians. The National Origins Quota of 1924, according to the Immigration Act, was the first permanent limitation on immigration into the United States and established the National Origins Quota system. In conjunction with the Immigration Act of 1917, it governed American immigration policy until 1952. Then, on 1952, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 was passed, also known as the McCarran-Walter Act. It restricted immigration into the U.S. and is codified under Title 8 of the United States Code. The act governs primarily immigration and citizens in the United States. Persons born in these territories on or after December 24, 1952 acquires U.S. citizenship at birth on the same terms as persons born in other parts of the United States. Citing Congress' failure to enforce U.S. immigration laws, the state of Arizona confronted reform, and on April 23, 2010, Republican Governor Jan Brewer signed the Support Our Law Enforcement and Safe Neighborhoods Act, Arizona SB 1070, the broadest and strictest immigration reform imposed in the United States. The SB 1070 Arizona Immigration Law directs law enforcement officials to ask for immigration papers on a reasonable suspicion that a person might be an illegal immigrant and make arrests for not carrying ID papers. Previously, police could not stop and check identification papers on a mere suspicion that someone might be an illegal immigrant. Police could only ask about an individual's immigration status if they are suspected of involvement in another crime. Being the first state to pass such legislation, Arizona has set a precedent for other states, but this legislation has also caused Arizona to carry a large burden. Although Arizonans have faced boycotts and protests from their commercial businesses to sporting events and concerts, the American people are supporting the bill, with over 50% of polled Americans in favor or support of such legislation in their state. Although the outbursts by groups have cost the state between $7 million and $52 million, the state still feels like this outcome will outweigh the initial cost. This act makes it a state misdemeanor crime for an alien to be in Arizona without carrying the required documents and obligates police to make an attempt, which practically during a lawful stop, detention, or arrest, to determine a person's immigration status if there is reasonable suspicion that the person is an illegal alien. On April 30th, the Arizona legislature passed and Governor Brewer signed the House Bill 2162, which modified the act that had been signed a week later with the amended text stating that prosecutors would not investigate complaints based on race, color, or national origin. The new text also states that police may also investigate immigration status incident to a lawful stop, detention, or arrest, lowers the original fine from a minimum of $500 to a maximum of $100, and changes incarceration limits for first-time offenders from 6 months to 20 days. One case involving the act was aired on 3 TV News at azfamily.com. Abden was a commercial truck driver and was pulled over in the morning. He was then asked to show his document. He handed over his commercial driver license and provided his social security number. Eventually, that wasn't enough. The officer handcuffed him and transported him to the Immigration, Custom, and Enforcement building in Phoenix of Central Avenue. His wife, Jackie, was contacted and told to retrieve his birth certificate. She left work and driven hours back to Maricopa to retrieve his and her documents just in case. Showing Abden was born in Fresno, California. Abden was relieved to be out of the building. The two of them still remain shocked at the encounter.
I don't believe they should, and the United States government does not believe they should.
Yeah, they should. It'll open up more job opportunities to almost everybody.
If it's asking just randomly, then I don't think it should, because I don't think that's right.
Yeah, because our country is overpopulated.
I think it's mainly targeting Hispanics, because most of the immigration issues have come from Hispanics, even though there's people coming from Africa illegally, there's people coming from Asia illegally, but most of the hype is about Hispanics, mainly Mexicans, but other Hispanics.
But in my opinion, about if she's targeting, the specific race, I think it is Mexicans or Hispanics.
Okay.
No.
Do you think it is targeting a specific race?
I think it's targeting several specific races as far as black, Mexican, anything that basically not white can be targeted.
No, not really, just everybody, almost everybody is immigrant.
More immigrants are going to go to Texas instead of Arizona.
Yes, more job openings for those that are less fortunate of finding jobs.
Will this affect us in the future?
I think it will hugely affect the image that the United States carries along with to the rest of the world, because we're known as an interracial free country, and this law will not allow our image to be held up.
Yeah, builds up the better economy. Probably open more job opportunities, less problems with people who are not working, not having money for their lives.
And what do you think we've gained or failed due to this law?
Well, I believe we've gained more of a title of a country that believes in racial profiling, and I think we've lost a lot of trust from other countries as far as believing that we can do certain jobs anymore.
What are the consequences of this law?
Several consequences, including probably more strikes from people, probably a lot more fights from people that believe they're being racially profiled and strike out in anger, and other consequences.
Have Mexico?
So far, we noticed we haven't had as much problems as before.
We haven't gotten anything
What happened?
More jobs and less violence.